After refusing to pay community fees that didn't exist, I became the target of my entire HOA led by my neighbor and my own aunt. They fined me, harassed me, and tried to foreclose on my home over $50 in unpaid dues. I stayed quiet, gathered proof of fraud, and exposed them at the annual meeting. Watching them get arrested mid-speech while the whole neighborhood clapped was the single most beautiful moment of my life. I remember that day so clearly because it was the first truly cool morning of the Texas fall. The kind where you feel like you can breathe again after months of heat. I opened the door expecting to grab the newspaper and instead found a bright yellow notice flapping in the breeze. Outstanding community fees, $50. Due immediately. I frowned. That had to be a mistake. I paid my HOA dues every January like clockwork, $150 a year. Always had, since buying my modest little ranch home in Wiley back in 2016. I wasn't late on anything. At first, I thought it was just a clerical error. Maybe a new admin at the HOA office screwed up. These things happen. I called the number listed at the bottom of the notice. A young woman answered. Sounded nervous. Hi, yes. This is Mary. HOA office. Mary, this is Claire Miller, over on Parkside Lane. I got a notice for $50 in community fees? I believe there's been a mistake. No mistake, ma'am. It's the new maintenance fund. All homeowners were notified 2 months ago. I never received anything about that. She paused, like she didn't know what to say next. Well, I can't discuss it. The board approved it. That's when I knew something was off. The board. That was Brenda Carter and Patricia Malloy, my neighbor and, regrettably, my Aunt Patty. Brenda had moved into the neighborhood 2 years prior. She was the type who seemed nice at first. Waved at everyone. Brought over cookies during her first week. Then she started showing up at every HOA meeting and volunteering for committees nobody cared about. She ran for HOA president unopposed because no one else had time for the nonsense. Patty had lived here for a decade. She wasn't blood family, she'd married my mother's brother. After my mom passed, she inserted herself into my life out of family duty, which mostly meant telling me what to do. When Patty got herself appointed to the HOA board, she and Brenda became inseparable. They called themselves accountability partners. What that really meant was that they both loved power and finally found someone equally obsessed with controlling other people. I refused to pay the fee. I sent a certified letter requesting proof of the vote they claimed to have held. By law, all new fees had to be voted on by the homeowners, with at least 60% approval. I'd received no notice, no ballot, no email. Nothing. That's when the harassment started. Week 1, I got 3 citations. 1. Overgrown weeds, my lawn was trimmed 2 days earlier. 2. Garbage bins visible from the street, false. 3. Noise complaint, no idea what they were talking about. Week 2, my mailbox was smashed in the middle of the night. Someone dumped a bag of fast food trash on my lawn. I got a bill for $150 in fines. Week 3, spray paint appeared on my driveway. Pay your fees. A foreclosure notice arrived. The total fines were now $850. All over $50 goddamn dollars. My lawyer, my cameras, my plan. I called my attorney, Michelle Garza, who had handled my husband's estate years earlier. Claire, they're trying to force you to either pay or get scared and sell. Don't engage. Document everything. So I did. I installed 4 security cameras around my property. Real ones, not the fake plastic domes they sold at Home Depot. I bought a high-capacity DVR to save weeks of footage. I also started taking daily photos of my lawn, garbage bins, driveway, and mailbox. The cameras caught more than I expected. Brenda walking around my front yard at midnight, placing garbage bags by my shrubs. Patty meeting with a landscaping guy, handing him cash. He later confessed she paid him to leave grass clippings on my lawn and report violations. 2 teenagers spray painting my driveway while Brenda stood watch. I didn't tell anyone what I had. I wanted them to think I was isolated and powerless. While reviewing my HOA statements, something odd stood out. The routing number on the notice didn't match the official HOA's bank account listed in the annual budget report. I called my friend Denise, a CPA who lived in the neighborhood. That's not the HOA's account. That's a private checking account made to look like an HOA fund. Brenda and someone else set up a DBA, doing business as the HOA name, and opened it under that. It was fraud. Plain and simple. I didn't go public. Yet. Instead, I gathered 4 months of security footage. Copies of all notices and citations. A recording of my phone call with Mary from the HOA office. Financial records Denise helped me compile. Screenshots of similar complaints from other neighbors posted in the HOA's private Facebook group, most of which Brenda had deleted, but I got the screenshots first. Then I contacted the Collin County Sheriff's Office Fraud Division. Detective Harris reviewed everything and advised me to sit tight. We're opening an investigation, but we need to catch them in the act of trying to collect fraudulent dues at the next meeting. I also reached out to KXAS Channel 5 News. Reporter Rachel Alvarez agreed to attend the meeting undercover. The annual homeowners meeting, October 14th. The rec center was packed. I hadn't seen that many neighbors in one place since the 4th of July parade. Brenda stood at the front in a blue pantsuit like she was running for office. Patty sat beside her, arms crossed, smirking. We have serious matters tonight, Brenda began, voice sugary. Some residents refused to contribute to our community upkeep, harming property values for everyone. She pointedly looked at me. One homeowner owes nearly $1,000. The board is prepared to move forward with foreclosure. A few people gasped. Some looked away. A few whispered. I stood up. I have a few things to say. Brenda, this isn't the time for personal complaints, Claire. I think it is. I walked to the front and placed a binder on the table. This is 4 months of evidence showing fraud, harassment, vandalism, and illegal banking activity by this board, specifically Brenda Carter and Patricia Malloy. The room went dead silent. Here's footage of Brenda vandalizing my property. Patty bribing landscapers. Financial records proving a fake bank account. Multiple homeowners were targeted. Not just me. Brenda's face went pale. Patty started whispering frantically to her. And I believe Detective Harris can explain the rest. Right on cue, Detective Harris and 2 deputies entered the room. Brenda Carter, Patricia Malloy, you are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, vandalism, and attempted grand theft. Brenda tried to back toward the exit. Patty stood frozen, lips trembling. You can't do this. This is a misunderstanding. Brenda shrieked. The community needs us. The deputies didn't care. They cuffed both women. Patty burst into tears. Then something amazing happened. The room, silent a moment earlier, erupted in applause. People stood up. Cheered. Some even whistled. I saw Mr. Langley from 3 houses down wipe tears from his eyes. He'd paid over $600 in fake fees out of fear. Rachel Alvarez caught the whole thing on hidden camera. By the 10 p.m. news, Brenda and Patty's mugshots were on every TV in the county. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of texts, emails, and voicemails. Some were from neighbors thanking me. Some from people I barely knew in the neighborhood, asking if there would be a class action suit. One man, Jerry Ortega, told me his elderly mother had almost lost her home last month because of Brenda and Patty's fake fines. He wanted to help however he could. Then there were the nastier messages. Anonymous numbers. You'll regret this. Snitch. The board did what was necessary. I wasn't stupid. Brenda and Patty had their loyalists. People who either benefited from their scheme or genuinely believed they were protecting the neighborhood. Cult mentality ran deep. 3 days after the arrests, the remaining board members, Mark Lewis and Shelley Pritchard, called an emergency HOA meeting. I attended out of curiosity. Mark stood at the front, sweating through his shirt. We understand recent events have caused distress. However, we must remind everyone that the HOA is a collective body. Actions taken by Brenda and Patricia were regrettable, but isolated. Shelley nodded like a bobblehead. We should all move forward. No lawsuits. No further drama. I stood up. Are you seriously trying to cover for them? Mark, we're trying to maintain community unity, Claire. Unity? After they tried to steal our homes? Then Denise stood up. Claire has more evidence. It wasn't just Brenda and Patty. Other board members signed off on the false fees. A few other homeowners gasped. Mr. Langley, quiet, elderly, always polite, stood up, too. I gave you people $1,200. You told me it was for sidewalk repairs that never happened. I checked the city records. No permits were ever filed. The room began murmuring. Shelley looked like she was going to cry. We were told it was temporary. Brenda said it was just to cover a funding gap. Mark tried to regain control. Look, we can refund everyone and start fresh. No need to bring in more lawyers. I looked him dead in the eye. Too late. The county's already investigating. And by the way, you signed the checks. That was the last thing I said before walking out. Over the next week, it became clear the rabbit hole went deeper than anyone guessed. Detective Harris confirmed. Brenda and Patty had forged at least 6 other board member signatures. They'd siphoned HOA funds into 3 different accounts. Some money had even been funneled into a personal business Patty ran out of her garage, selling custom crafts online. And here's the kicker, the title company that handled property transfers in our neighborhood? Brenda's cousin worked there. That's how they had fast-tracked foreclosure threats. It wasn't just harassment. It was a well-oiled machine. They'd already forced 2 families to sell below market value. Brenda and Patty's silent partners, 2 real estate investors, had scooped up the properties and flipped them for profit. I wasn't just fighting for my own house anymore. I'd stayed quiet long enough. Now it was time to truly fight back. With Denise's help, I organized a homeowners alliance. We created a legal fund. I spoke to the same lawyer who had helped a similar case in Plano 2 years earlier. He specialized in HOA fraud. Over 30 homeowners signed on. We filed a class action lawsuit against Brenda and Patty, Mark and Shelley, the title company, the 2 real estate investors. The lawsuit accused them of fraud, conspiracy, elder abuse, for targeting older homeowners, and property theft. The moment the lawsuit became public record, more people came forward. One woman named Erica said she'd paid $500 in parking violation fines, despite never having more than 1 car. She also admitted Brenda had bullied her into resigning from the board last year. Another man, Troy, confessed that Brenda had offered him $3,000 to keep quiet when he questioned the maintenance fund. Even Mary, the nervous HOA office worker who'd answered my first phone call, resigned and contacted my lawyer. She gave a sworn statement that Brenda and Patty had threatened her job if she didn't follow their script when homeowners called. Detective Harris added witness intimidation and racketeering charges to the list. Just when I thought we had all the momentum, things took an ugly turn. One night, around 2 a.m., Duke started barking like crazy. I checked my cameras from my phone and saw 3 masked men trying to break into my backyard shed. I called the sheriff's office. Deputies arrived within minutes, but the guys were gone. They'd left a note taped to the shed door, "Drop the lawsuit or else." I wasn't scared. I was furious. Detective Harris installed temporary patrols in the neighborhood. Several other plaintiffs reported similar threats. The intimidation wasn't over. But neither was my fight. The attempted break-in and threats didn't scare me. They just proved the people we were fighting were desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Detective Harris pulled the fingerprints off the note and the shed door. Guess who they matched? Troy McGill. The same neighbor who had come forward earlier saying Brenda offered him $3,000 to stay quiet. Turned out, Troy had been working both sides. He fed Brenda and Patty information about our lawsuit strategy. When that failed, he got his hands dirty. The sheriff's office arrested him. He folded faster than a cheap lawn chair. Spilled everything. Brenda had paid him $5,000 to scare me off. When Troy asked for more, she refused. That's when he got sloppy. It took almost 9 months, but we finally got to court. By that time, the criminal charges had already convicted Brenda and Patty. Brenda got 8 years for fraud, conspiracy, and elder abuse. Patty got 5 years. Both were ordered to pay restitution, but everyone knew we'd never see a dime of it. But the civil lawsuit was my real victory. The jury didn't take long. They found Brenda and Patty guilty of fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Mark and Shelley guilty of gross negligence. The title company liable for aiding fraudulent foreclosures. The real estate investors guilty of receiving stolen property. The Homeowners Alliance was awarded $2.3 million in damages. Each of the wronged families got back their stolen fines, plus compensation. The families who lost homes got enough to buy new ones, and then some. And me? I received $250,000 for damages, plus an extra $100,000 in punitive damages for the harassment and attempted, but money wasn't the best part. The best part was the final HOA meeting 6 weeks after the trial ended. The homeowners voted to dissolve the HOA completely. No more board. No more Brenda clones. No more fees. We didn't need overlords to maintain our homes. We could manage things as neighbors, like it should have been from the start. At that last meeting, I stood up one final time. To those who fought with me, thank you. To those who stayed silent out of fear, I understand. And to those who enabled them, this community will never forget what you tried to do. The room erupted in applause. Brenda tried to appeal her sentence. Denied. Twice. Patty had a breakdown in prison and was transferred to a psychiatric facility. Mark and Shelley declared bankruptcy. Shelley moved out in the dead of night. Nobody's heard from her since. The real estate investors were banned from practicing in the state. As for me? I paid off my house completely. Upgraded the fence. Got Duke a brand new heated doghouse. Adopted a second rescue dog, a feisty little mutt named Rocket. And when new neighbors moved in, I made sure they knew, in this neighborhood, we take care of each other. No more tyrants. No more scams. Watching Brenda and Patty get cuffed that night was the single most beautiful moment of my life. But knowing I helped give my neighbors their homes, and their dignity, back? That's something even sweeter than revenge.